We are live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Blake Ruffino. This is Are You Serious Sports? We hope that you guys are making it a good one. We know that we are as well. Guys, do you know what time it is? Pooh Bear, Zach, do you know what time it is?
We're back.
Yeah! It is game week, baby. I can't freaking wait. I got to tell you, I don't know how to put this. I didn't move off my recliner Saturday. After the show, my fat ass sat right there. My wife was cooking. Life was good, baby. Football's back. Hold that tiger. Oh, wait. No, that was the last administration. Football's back, though, baby. It's going to be fun. We got a lot that we got to get into. It is finally game week. We'll talk some Florida State takeaways that I had against Florida State. A lot of people, and look, I will admit this live on air. Maybe I was too aggressive this weekend, but nevertheless, it's just me being concerned. But I still feel very confident for LSU and the LSU Fighting Tigers. So we'll break down Florida State. Brian Kelly spoke with the media today. He did not announce the quarterback. But you know your boy been digging. I've been digging. What do you call the people at a funeral home? What do you call people at a funeral home that dig the graves? A gold digger? That's what I call my ex. An undertaker. Okay. I'm gonna say it's a gold digger. She ain't messing with a bro. I'm not going to say that. She ain't messing with a gold digger. Oh, I got to be careful. Pooh Bear, I wasn't going to say it. Pause. I know. Come on, man. Come on. Anthony Hall says grave digger. It's all entertainment, guys. Don't cancel me. Come on, man. All right, so we do have a lot. We do have a lot we got to get into. It's going to be a fun show. Carter, the Power Bryant, joins us at 7:30. Talk some FSU, talk some LSU. We'll do some Saints projections. LSU. Saints first-round pick Trevor Penning goes down. He'll be out for the season. What? Everybody freaking out that Dennis Allen was playing him. Well, you're playing Tyrann Mathieu, Jameis Winston, and others. So, yeah. And then Rudy Poo of the week. We'll get to the Rudy Poo of the week. So, a huge pause. Show in store for you tonight. I might need to wear my pause shirt because that's been said a lot on the show here lately. So, let's get to a couple comments, though, before we get started. Guys, I know that a lot of people, Honka said, Driscoll blocked you on Twitter. What a lame. I'm not going to get into him anymore. You know, I literally just took his direct quote. Right? Like the Bryant Driscoll guy from Irish Breakdown. I'm not going to continue to entertain him. If he wants to block people and be a little bit of a fool, that's on him. I'm not going to entertain that. Right? Like it is what it is. He has his opinion. I have my opinion. But let me just say this to everybody. If you're on social media and you call myself, Zach, Pooh Bear, a clown, we're coming for you, bro. You don't call me. You don't call my team. You don't call what we're doing clowns. But what wasn't a clown today is I got to give a shout out to Zach with the LSU hype video. He said he parted his hair very strongly this weekend, every single day, like his name is Tim Tebow. So if you haven't checked it out, go to Twitter, YouTube, all that good stuff, Tigers Avenue to see the LSU hype video. Myself, Pooh Bear, and Reagan are in it. So it was really, really fun. But let's get to a couple comments, though, before we kick all of this off. Lars! I knew Lars was going to be pissed off. Lars says, there's no tactical advantage in starting Daniels at quarterback because that's what Florida State's going to be preparing for. What do you mean by that, Lars? What do you mean there's no tactical advantage? There is a tactical advantage, bud. Stephen Fry, says 6 more days. Blake, let's freaking go. Absolutely, my buddy. Ryan Gidger says Brian Kelly's interview was impressive. Look, if you're not subscribed to the AYS message board, I put some things in there. Guys, it's Brian Kelly's season. It's Brian Kelly's program. Scott Woodward ain't going to tell him nothing. Ain't nobody, boosters ain't going to tell him nothing. All right. Buster, I see some of your questions inside the chat. We'll get to them out of the break. You put a hashtag Ask Blake, we'll get it rolling. Pooh Bear says, let's get this thing rolling, y'all. Just a couple more seconds, Pooh Bear. Lars says, again, Florida State is preparing for Daniels. It's silly not to name him the starter if he's going. Now, let me say this. I do agree with Lars on that now. I do agree with Lars on that. I mean, if it's going to be him, I mean, there's no tactical advantage. But the only tactical advantage you obviously have is you do have to prepare for Nussmeier, because here's the difference. They're gonna play two quarterbacks. They're gonna have to scheme for both of them anyway. And maybe he hadn't had the time to talk to his quarterbacks. Pooh Bear, do y'all have these shirts yet? Josh Forbes just said. PaulsHub.com. The old PaulsHub.com. Yes. Pooh Bear, they're ripping me in Twitter. They're ripping me on Twitter. Blake Pooh Bear was going to come to the camera if you sang the rest of the Kanye West song. Come on, bro. I wasn't going to sing it. It's a come on, man. Stacy Harrell sends some stars via Super Chat. Thank you so much. John Trail Thompson says, Blake, what's up, man? What's going on, buddy? All right. So we do have a lot to break down. We have to talk Florida State. We have to talk LSU. We'll start off with some Brian Kelly. But before we do that, everybody do us a favor. You know what time it is. Stop, collaborate, and listen. Hit the like, hit the share to all of those social media groups. Share to all of those social media pages. So many of you are watching us live right now for Facebook. Hit that like and share to all those pages. If you're listening to us on YouTube, subscribe, hit that notification bell. We're closing in on $5,000 on YouTube. It's kind of as if I should have been going to YouTube the entire time, but some old partners steered me in the wrong direction. Yes, I'm calling you out. But nevertheless, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that good stuff. We greatly appreciate. If you're listening to us on TuneIn app, XM Radio, anywhere you listen to Apple Podcasts, we greatly appreciate it, and we greatly appreciate you doing that. Also, I mentioned this Saturday, but I will officially break the news here. Guys, we'll be doing a pregame show. So an all SEC pregame show starting on Saturdays. We're shifting from the Believe in Saints to an AYS, or pretty much AYS SEC. We'll be having big-time guests on Saturday mornings. That is our attempt. I think that we're going to get a former Georgia quarterback on this Saturday. We'll see. But that's what we're doing. So everybody hit the like and share. We greatly appreciate it. So Zach, Pooh, let's pay these bills. Let's talk about our good friends over at GM Barno & Sons and betonline.ag. Guys, we have a lot to break down. Brian Kelly, quarterback, all that good stuff, offensive line, and then we'll talk about some Florida State and Carter the Power Bryant joining us in 20 minutes. But let's fire that up, and then let's get started. None better than BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews for all the news for each league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, college sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information for live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BELIEVE50, BLEAV50, to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag, betonline.ag. With over 65 years of experience, nobody is better equipped to service in your vehicle than GM Barno & Sons. RV repair, big rig overhauls, motorhome chassis, routine maintenance, tire rotations, tire sales. No job is too big or too small over at GM. If you break down on the side of the road in the greater Baton Rouge area, they will come and get you. And the best thing about that is that they can come and get you, and then they can bring your vehicle back to their shop and start the repairs right then. Again, GM Barno & Sons. Go see them over at 2500 Fuller Boulevard. Give them a call at 225-664-9992, 225-664-9992. Tell him your good friend Blake Ruffino sent you on by. All right, let's get to some of these questions. The hashtag Ask Blakes. Buster Tanner says, hashtag Ask Blake, if you could choose one position group to win the game for LSU, which group is it? I'm going to say wide receiver. I don't think it's close. Let's see what the D-line does. Now, listen, Pooh Bear hosted a space this past weekend. Thinking of it, and he kind of corrected me, and I think he was right. Maybe I was sounding and being a little too cautious, but guys, let me tell you why. And so let's get into it. Let's talk Florida State. We'll talk Florida State on that, Buster. I do want to get to what Brian Kelly did say first. I will get to that. Pooh, remind me in the chat or in our chat to get to that. But Brian Kelly did talk today about, obviously, it's game week. He's excited. He gave the itinerary of what LSU is going to do. They're going to leave on Saturday. They're going to spend the night, obviously, in New Orleans on Saturday. They're going to eat as a team. They have a restaurant that they're going to be eating at. They're going to eat on the way. They're going to go there. They'll go to the Dome. They'll do a walkthrough. Obviously, then they'll have the game on Sunday, which, guys, it just feels more prepared to me. And everything that Brian Kelly said today, like, guys, he showed up today in a button down and a jacket. Now, I know that my great producer Pooh Bear down here has a bow tie on right now, which you guys can't see, but you'll be able to see at the end of the show. Guys, it's a professional thing that he's doing here. The man knows what he's doing. When he walked to the podium, guys, I got to tell you, you could feel a pin drop in that room. He commands. He has presence. It's like he's been there before because, guys, he has been. He has been. But let's talk about the contents of what he said. Now, obviously, Brian Kelly was asked very quickly. I thought it would be the first question, but obviously they got to it quick. The guys in the media got to it quick. And the second question of it being the quarterback. And Brian Kelly says, we have announced, and let me read the direct quote. We have announced a starting quarterback, but we will not go public with it yet. That's all I need. Guys, that's all I need. The team knows, the offense knows, the quarterbacks know who the starting quarterback is. I get the perception and things that I hear and talk to people around the program that both quarterbacks have been told that they're going to play. Like, you better be by us because if the situation dictates itself, you're going in. With all of that being said, and now that we're at game week, guys, I fully expect Jane Daniels to be your starter. And I know a lot of people are going to get mad. The black dog that's always on YouTube, a lot of people that, have been at least getting on us for pushing a Jane Daniels narrative. Guys, we're here. Let me say this. Narratives aren't narratives when they come out to be true, right? So I don't care. I think Nussmeier could come in, he could start, he can win you the game. I really don't care at this point. Guys, you're going with experience. You're going with experience. You're going with what you know with. Are you going with a guy that's had 30 starts in college football? But both young men will play. I personally think, and I know a lot of people were asking me on Twitter today about the offensive line. Guys, they win experience at right tackle with Cam Wire. So if you miss it, the starting offensive line will be left tackle Will Campbell, left guard Miles Frazier, center Garrett Dellinger, right guard will be Anthony Bradford, and right tackle will be Cam Wire. Guys, they went with some experience outside of the extremely talented five-star offensive tackle in Will Campbell. Tremont Shorts will play. Guys, that's a really damn good offensive line. Who this camp so far that we've seen has held up. It's hard for me to believe if Brian Kelly is going to go with experience on the offensive line, experience at running back, experience at wide receiver, that he does not go experience at quarterback. I think that he will. There's parts of me that's not really thinking on that. I don't think that it's just it fits what Brian Kelly is doing right now. There might be more talented guys that are I don't want to say below them, but from a talent perspective, I think that you have a lot of young, talented depth. Brian Kelly's going to kick this game off with experience. Along this offensive line, I have a lot of confidence in it. The question and the ultimate thing for me right now, can LSU run the football? If LSU can control the line of scrimmage and run the football, guys, I think that you're going to have a 17 to 20 point win. I'm going to pick the Tigers by 17. I do think that the talent of the depth chart will make LSU expand that lead later on in this game. There's parts of me, though, that wants to be very cautious. Okay, and we can go to the defensive line. Guys, so if you missed it and you didn't watch it, Saturday, Florida State played. Florida State ran a lot of counters. They ran a lot of zone reads. They were very vanilla. I know that a lot of people who have not played on the offensive line, don't have experience there, which is fine, thought that Florida State was getting blown up at the line of scrimmage. Guys, it's not true. Don't take one highlight and say that they suck, because anybody can get blown up on one play. Because we saw Emory Jones during camp pancake Jacobian Guillory. Does Jacobian stink? No, he doesn't. Not even remotely close. We've seen Anthony Bradford handle on Ali Gay at times. Does Ali Gay stink? No, he doesn't. My point is when you run a counter play and you have a defensive end that comes down and a linebacker that will come down, the penetration is what makes the counter work. You have a guard, you have a tackle that comes and seals the edge to make a crease from the running back. That's why it looks like that. They did a good job at that. They also did a good job at zone reads. Guys, they ran the ball for 406 yards. They had 3 guys that went over 100 yards rushing. I get it's Duquesne. Florida State's not playing Duquesne this week. They're not playing that defensive line. But for people that are inexperienced in that game, go back and watch LSU versus Florida a season ago. It's a lot of the same stuff, especially with the counter. LSU's defense is going to have to be extremely extremely disciplined in everything that they do in the running game. Brian Kelly even talked about that today. When asked Brian Kelly about Florida State and how does it give him any advantage seeing Florida State a season ago, he goes, no, not really, but I know what they want to do. And Brian Kelly's direct quote is, we have to be disciplined in our front seven and defensively. You start playing out of position, you start taking gaps that aren't yours, pause, but you start doing things that is not your role, that's what gets you beating this type of offense. But I think the defense can do some things up front. And Florida State hasn't seen LSU. Guys, they don't know what LSU's coming out in defensively. They have no remotely idea what LSU's coming out in. I can fully see this game starting off extremely slow for them. Let's flip it on the other side of the ball. Florida State's got a serious problem with their defensive backs. Serious problem. Those wide open passes that Duquesne had and the wide open receivers Duquesne had, they dropped the ball. Newsflash to everybody in here, to the 500 plus of you that are in here. Kayshon Boutte's not going to miss those passes that Duquesne did. Malik Neighbors, who had an ankle sprain, who will be back this Sunday. Malik Neighbors, Jack Besh, Jeray Jenkins, Brian Thomas, Chris Hilton, Kyron Lacey, they're not dropping those passes. the clear advantage to me for LSU, and it's not even remotely close, if either one of these quarterbacks, which I think both of them can at a very high level, get the ball to our wide receivers, guys, it could get ugly. I think that's where it gets ugly. If LSU can find a way to get their playmakers in space against Florida State, it could get ugly. I think that their defensive back room, after watching them against Duquesne and watching them play the quarters coverage, if they're going to play that far off on Kayshon Boutte, good luck. Let me make this very well known, though. I don't think that it's going to be a blowout. Not remotely close. I don't think a blowout is 17 points. That's where I'm sitting at. It's around 17. What I will say, though, however, Florida State does have athletes defensively. A lot of athletes defensively. Don't overlook the talent that they do have. Guys, they have 2 defensive tackles that are really good. Really, really good. So we'll see. All right, we have some of these comments. Apparently, somebody was getting on Chris. Did we have Chris's comment up here? I was seeing it in the chat. Honey Bun Lee says he's bro, look, that's a face only a mama can love. Look at them honey buns on that side, boy. I mean, God, dog. But Chris Lee said he's going with Nuss. That's why he didn't announce it, so Jaden won't transfer. No, Chris, that's not what's going on. That's both of them going to play. Zach says 32-24. Okay. Lars says, I'm not excited. LSU athletes has to go to the dome, then back to the hotel, then back to the dome. But Lars, let me say this to you, Lars. I feel are you? And I'm just asking, are you trying to find something wrong? You know what I mean? Like, are you trying to find a negative? Brother, he was doing it at Notre Dame. So let me just hypothetically throw this out here. And he said they will go back to the hotel and eat breakfast. You know what prevents kids from going out and partying in New Orleans? A wake-up call at 6:30 or 7 o'clock in the morning. Right? Don't go out in New Orleans because, guys, we got to be at the Dome at 7. Then we'll come back. I'm sure they'll go through a walkthrough. They'll come back and eat breakfast and get off their feet. There's nothing wrong with that, man. There's nothing wrong with what Brian Kelly's doing. Stop that. Stop that. C. King says, man, we gonna punish these people. Could. I mean, there is a chance that we could LSU could beat them, and Pooh Bear says 38-21. I'm close to that. I think that's where I'm at. The thing for me is watching Florida State's secondary, guys, they're not good, like, at all. And we don't know what we're going to see at quarterback from either guy. If they translate what we've seen in fall camp to this game Saturday, that's where LSU's biggest advantage is going to be. And there's a person I haven't even talked about in Mason Taylor. Guys, who do you cover? Or is Florida State going to come out and double cover Kayshon? Because Florida State's defensive coordinator came out today and said, dude, we're going to have to be on our P's and Q's to cover him. Well, good luck. Stop Jack Besh. Stop Jeray, BT, Hilton, Neighbors. And I think Malik please, God, double team Kayshon Boutte. Because Kayshon only having 2, 3, 4 catches and everybody else is eating, that's okay with me, because you know what happens with that? It's the same thing that happens with Jamar. Guys, Jamar didn't do really remotely anything a lot against Georgia Southern. Go back and look at that game in 19. Everybody was eating in that game. Jefferson scored twice, I think. I remember Terrace Marshall scoring twice, I think. And Chase Kirk caught that fade route in the back of the end zone close to the student section. So please, God, double team it. They will eat you alive. The thing with me, too, is I was watching the game last night, and I think I told Pooh Bear this after his show when we were talking. They run a lot of quarters coverage. I think it was Pooh. Maybe it wasn't. Guys, if you play off of LSU's receivers, they're going to eat all night long in this RPO game. We've seen what Kayshawn does to SEC athletes when he runs that quick slant and gets up the seam. Nighty-night, dog. Mike Tyson nighty-night. I'm getting a little bit more after seeing Florida State's defensive backroom, guys, I'm getting much more confident. A Duke and water. No, they're not that good, bro. They're not that good at all. Matthew Mitchell, at least they showed that they haven't been. Matthew Mitchell says, hashtag ask Blake, what's the difference between this year and last year besides BK? The offense, here's the biggest thing for me. And I know I'm going to stay a lot on offense this week because I think that's the clear advantage here. You don't have Jake Peets. Guys, Jake Peets might be the worst offensive coordinator that we've ever had at LSU. You have a guy that had Alabama or the ropes at Cincinnati, and if he had a Kayshon Boutte, they could win that game. Go back and watch the entire game at Cincinnati. Now, I know that Carter and I had talked about this, and Will Anderson wreck shop, and I get it. But Cincinnati had multiple drops in the end zone. Guys, you catch both of those passes in the end zone from Desmond Ridder, you have a 2014, a 2020 ball game with 3 minutes left to go in the game. The truth of all of that is Mike Denbrock out-schemed Pete Golding and Nick Saban. That's what the biggest difference is. And you have Brian Kelly. I think you're going to have better quarterback play. I think you're going to have a better O-line play. I think everything holistically, offensively, will be better. Now, LSU did put up a lot of yards and put up a lot of points at times, but it's going to be much different. The question that I will maintain this week is LSU going to run tempo? What's Florida State going to do if Jaden busts off a long run? Guys, you know, a lot of people, and look, some have done this to Garrett as well, but mainly Jaden. You know, the argument against Garrett is he's young, he's a gunslinger, he puts the ball in harm's way. He does. No denying that whatsoever. Jaden has taken a lot of look, I'm not going to say Paul. Jaden has taken a lot of shit from this fan base so far. I see your comments. We see them all. I will tell you this. If that young man, and this isn't just me saying it, go to any one of your favorite media member and any video or fall camp or message board, go and see what they're saying. The overall theme is that he's looked really good in the intermediate passing game. And I'll be honest, I was surprised at how well and how long he would sit in the pocket. I don't think his first inclination is to run. I think if he translates what we saw the last 4 weeks, this offense has a chance to be more dynamic than last year was. And it's not close. Guys, we are running short side slants. And the offensive line scheme and the flow of the progression was to the opposite side of where they're throwing it, of the running back. It was so disorganized. You wonder why Ed Ingram looked so bad? Well, maybe because his offensive coordinator stunk. Last time I checked, Ed Ingram just won the starting right guard position for the Minnesota Vikings. Pooh Bear said this the other night. Bro, Pooh, remember when that dude told me I said the offensive line sucks? People be just saying I say a whole bunch of stuff. Oh, hell. Crying belly. I ain't reading this. I ain't reading it. Lamar Williams says, it's all about getting in the gaps, pause, and pushing through the hole, pause. Y'all guys, we got to stop with the pause. Lars says, I'm not excited. We got to that one. I ain't reading that again. Chris Lee says, you can't say he's going experience if he starts a freshman at left tackle. Chris, I said that's the only position that he's not doing it at. Chris be hearing what he wants to hear. I know one thing Chris didn't do. He didn't listen to Golden Boot podcast last night. That's what I know. It's a joke, guys. It's a joke. All right. Let's get this thing rolling. Let's get our good man, Carter, the Power, Bryant in here. We're going to talk a lot of LSU, a lot of Florida State. Let's get to him now. But let's pay these bills very quickly. Everybody do us a favor. Hit the like and share. All of that great stuff. I guess this is post. Says a lot of truth is said in jest. Ain't that the truth? Let's get to our good man Carter, the Power Bryant, but let's talk about our good friends over at Gramco, thegramco.com. Use that promo code AYS25. We return in 45 seconds with literally the Arkansas goat. Guys, I've got to talk to you about our good friends over at Gramco. They are the Delta 8 company based out of the state of Florida. They're founded by college football junkies just like you and I am not sure if you're familiar with Delta 8, but you need to be. Gramco is the absolute leader in this field, and they have phenomenal products that I just need to tell you about. First off is the Wake and Bake coffee that is absolutely spectacular. The gummies are as well, as they're the best in the market. So go to thegramco.com right now and use the promo code AYS25. That's thegramco.com, AYS25 promo code to get 25% off of your order. Jump on this fast as it is perfect for holidays, anniversaries, and everyday use. Gramco is hemp-derived and completely legal inside of the state of Louisiana. No medical card is needed, and shipping is very discreet. You must be 21 years older to order. Again, that's thegramco.com. Use that promo code AYS25.
We're back.
Carter, the Power, Bryant. How are you? How are you, my buddy? How are things going in your world? Hey, you know what it is? It's freaking game week. Sit on your recliner or couch all day watching Scott Frost try to kick an onside kick and look like a dumbass?
Oh, man, that was such a fun game. Shout out to Trey Palmer. Shout out to A.J. Allen. Shout out 318. Look at you, North Louisiana. Got a true freshman at running back as a backup at Nebraska. But, yeah, Blake, it's game week. There's a lot to discuss, and I've been listening to you. I think everybody agrees that, you know, when you get to this point, you should just not announce your starting quarterback, right? Totally agree with that decision. But, you know, the more I looked into it, and I've been a big fan of Nuss, I feel as if though Jayden on Sunday,
the Lord's Day.
I do feel, just looking at what Florida State does defensively, I do feel Jayden is probably your best option. Now, that is not to say Jayden lays a stinker and Garrett needs to come in and save the day. A lot of different things can happen in this crazy sport of football. And that's not also to say that there is a gap between them. I think Brian Kelly was being truthful here, that there have been some days where you're like, goodness, Garrett kind of looks like he's our guy. But I do feel, when looking at the numbers, that Jayden does give LSU the better chance to win on Sunday, and that's that.
Well, look, I still, Carter, believe both young men are going to play. I think the difference has been, number one, the lack of turnovers Jayden has had in camp.
Right.
Number two, the experience. You can't teach what he's going through, especially under pressure. Look, listen, I get that he was going up against Pac-12 guys, but I always think about this. LSU was going up against Pac-12 guys against UCLA too. And Max couldn't get away from the pressure. They sent the same amount of heat. He made the right checks. He made the right calls, and he got the ball out in time. My point is this. I think, Carter, this is what won him the job. If it is going to be him, and I'll tell you why it's Garrett too. He sat in the pocket, and he picked LSU's defense apart. That's what won him the job, not him running the football. That added on to it because, Carter, they were so worried about him running in camp, okay, that they would leave their assignment. Then he would just rifle that sucker down the field, and Malik name. He would just say, F it, Malik down there somewhere, tutty, okay? I think that's what won him the job. But you can't teach what Garrett has either, right? Like, well, you can't teach what Jaden has. You can't teach, hey, man, I know he's in triple coverage, but I can get it to him, So we'll see. I still think both men can play. Let me ask you this. I said this on my show or just earlier tonight, and I want your opinion. I think the biggest advantage LSU has Sunday is out wide. I don't think Florida State's got a DB that could cover anybody on this team. I could be wrong there. When you watch Florida State, what did you believe? What did you see?
Yeah, I watched a lot of Florida State's defense, and we obviously there's not everything that you can cover just even in this segment, but on Wednesday night, I'm going to drop like probably the biggest opponent film study because they do a lot of very fascinating things. Now, they did lose a first-round pick on the defensive end, but they return a lot, and they brought in, and I know this doesn't sound like something crazy, but they brought in a defensive end transfer from Albany by the name of Jared Verse, and he can really play. Their
number one player in the portal.
Yeah.
Anybody.
I mean,
not Addison, not Ricks. It was him.
Yeah. Their defensive line's good. I mean, I know we focus a lot on ours, and there's a lot of talent on LSU's defensive line. Their defensive line's good, right? This is a tough matchup for a center in Garrett Dellinger. And I love the way that Brian Kelly just publicly has gotten really behind him because this is honestly a really, really difficult matchup in game one. Now, do I think he's up for the task? I do. But Cooper up the middle, 0 and 91. Those guys
are dogs.
They can really play. They can really, really play. Now, what's really interesting about this, Blake, was, and I won't get too deep into it. We just released a video on this, but the truth here is last year, Florida State struggled with quarterbacks who could run, right? They were amongst the nation's worst, right? And I started looking at them defensively. I found a really fun X's and O's Florida State account, and I love puns as well. It's called X's and Nulls. Get it? I love a good pun.
You and Pooh Bear in the Golden Boot Pie with these dad jokes, man. Like something about invisible ink and puns and knolls. Continue.
He's really good, really talented YouTuber, and I watch some of his stuff. And, he just kind of further proved the point that Florida State's defense lacks some speed. So they bring in a linebacker transfer, number 15 from UCF. His name also slips my mind. Really good player, had a really good game versus Duquesne. But I do think with the way that they line up, that the way that you're able to get them is by spreading them out. And the way you help out those Garrett Dellingers up the middle is by loosening that defense, right? It's going to be really hard for LSU to run between the tackles. Not only their defensive tackles are good, they play something called a Fox defensive end. It's a little bit of a thicker kind of player. Think of someone like a Tyson Jackson type of build. Those are the kind of guys that they have on their edges. Number 6 for Florida State. His name slips my mind as well. I just remember numbers, honestly. He's a good player. He does a really good job of, defending the run. But where they can get beat is in space on the edges, right? And I think that's where Jaden is going to force LSU to actually make him the guy, because a lot of what he's really good at is where Florida State is weak, right? So
agreed.
And something else that's very interesting is it's not so much that Garrett Nussmeier can't run. He is dual threat to a certain extent. But number one, he's not as great of a runner as Jaden is. Number 2, the vertical passing game is more important. The issue with that, and if you go listen to Brian Kelly in the press conference today, Florida State plays a lot of cover 3 and a lot of cover 4. Now, a lot of people may not know what that means, okay? When it comes to coverages, it is not my absolute strength. But what that means is...
And go ahead.
What that means is it's hard to throw over the top of those guys.
Exactly. They're keeping everything in front of them. It's basically like playing Arkansas.
Exactly.
Right.
And guess what? What do you think Florida State's going to want to do? not let things get over the top of them, right? Because LSU's best position is wide receiver. Like what you've hammered home, LSU can get very vertical with their offense, no matter who the quarterback is. We have wide receivers that can get deep as well as they can. In particular, Jure and Kayshawn, they're very good at running vertical routes, and obviously Malik as well. That's what Florida State doesn't want to do. They want to force LSU to methodically, with a new offensive line, to beat you going up and down the field. So, for me, I just feel Jaden gives them the better shot. Now, there's going to be some games where Garrett, I feel, gives them a better shot, some matchups, if you will. But on Sunday, remember, this game is very critical for this reason as well. And this honestly blows my mind when I started doing more research on this as well, Blake, was Florida State could be the easiest Power 5 team on LSU's schedule this year, right? And we've talked so much about this game being so important. Well, it could be because wins are going to be tough to come by this year. So it's not only a tone-setting win, but this game is critical for LSU because this is one of their more brutal schedules that they've ever had at the university. I really do mean it. It's tough. The analytics back that up. The AP polls back that up. The coaches polls back that up. The quarterbacks that are existing. I mean, Jordan Travis is
the worst quarterback they'll face is TJ Finley.
Yes, right. And Jordan Travis, I don't think is a top 3 quarterback on their schedule, and he's good. He's really good. So we'll see what happens on Sunday night, but it's very important to keep that in mind, that no matter what happens, there is still a lot of football left to be played.
I say it's the biggest game because it's kind of like, Carter, when you go and take a shower, you got to get the stank off of you.
Yeah.
LSU got to get the stank off of them. Let me add, it's just true, though, man. You got to get the stank off of you, bro. I mean, you smell musty. You're horrible. You got to get the stank off of you. Carter Bryant's our guest. We'll let you know where you can catch all the stuff. Carter, the funny thing to me is when watching Florida State play, a lot of people were posting on Twitter. Me and you had this conversation off air. We're going to bring it here. Their offensive line did not play as bad as some people believe that Florida State's offensive line did. The goal of a counterplay is for the defense to get penetration so that you can kick them out and a crease happens. That is their offense. I get that. Carter, here's my thing. Does it worry you at all that the running game for Florida State makes you dictate what you're going to do? Meaning we have to play assignment football in the front 7 to be able to stop the run. When you saw what they did and how effective they did it, and I get it's against Dookie Kane, but regardless, okay, what does that worry you after based what we saw a season ago with these same defensive linemen and linebackers?
Yeah, so I know, Blake, you've been getting this as well, but I've been getting you've been having TJ Penninger on your show. I hope I said his last name correctly.
Correct.
I'm sure you've been getting a lot of Florida State comments. I've been starting to get a lot as well. And,
call me a Rudy Poo today.
Rudy Poo. No, it's funny because a lot of Florida State fans have brought up their offensive line. They're very concerned about it, right? I don't think they're that good. Now, I agree with you on the counter stuff, but with the center issues that they've had, and they've had a lot.
They played 4 Saturday, dude.
That's insane. That is absolutely insane. So while a lot of us are worried about the Garrett Dellinger stuff, you should be very worried. Florida State fans are shivering their timbers with the idea of Mason. Yeah, I mean, the same way that we kind of feel about Florida State's defensive line, they feel about ours as well. Now, what's very interesting about Florida State, right? They've really struggled with offensive line play, even in the latter portions of the Jimbo tenure. This has always just been a position that they just can't quite get right. And they do return a lot of experience there. But the one thing that they struggled with versus Duquesne or Dookie Kane, whatever, is a twist stunt, right? Where, one, it's simple. It is exactly what the word describes it to be. one defensive end twist inside and the defensive tackles twist outside, and there's different variations of it. And one thing that's very interesting is BJ Ojolari has been a very good twist defensive end. He's really good at twisting to the inside, right? Him and Jaquelin Roy have had a lot of good chemistry. You can go back to the 2020 Florida game where they generated a lot of pressure with that. And that's where BJ can have a big, big, big game. Now, Brian Kelly mentioned this today, and I thought the press conference, normally press conferences are very coach speak. He gave a lot of specifics out in this. He laid it out. We got to make Jordan Travis one-dimensional. We got to be able to keep him in the pocket. And to me, this is the biggest thing, Blake, is we make this big thing about, well, Florida State, they're not going to know who's going to be at quarterback. They're going to prepare for Jaden Daniels. But it was very interesting. A Florida State 247 reporter released this earlier today that they are scrapping for whatever information that they can get on Matt House, right? Now,
you heard that today about them going all the way back to his Kentucky film.
It's unreal. It's unreal because that's what you do. You have no idea. You have absolutely no idea. Mm-hmm. So if I were Matt House, I would say, look, I'm throwing every exotic thing I can at you because they have no idea. And the one thing that is really, really fascinating is LSU's defense. And I do feel this is intentional. Guess what? Brian Kelly's given the media the most access that they've ever gotten.
He might want it out there.
Exactly. I haven't seen LSU's defense do anything, really. Like, not anything out of the ordinary. Like, in any of the viewing. I've seen some.
The only thing that they did was they went in a big nickel package and Mike Jones Jr. went out to the slot, but it was more of just a 4-3, your basic 4-3. Like, I'm not giving any trade secrets away. I mean, it's a 4-3, and right. BJ was standing up. So there wasn't anything that they showed at all.
Nothing. Like, they would show like an occasional simulated pressure, but it would be like the most basic simulated pressure. Like, one guy drops out and one guy goes. Like, there's no way that that's what Matt House is actually going to do. And Florida State knows that. Their coaching staff is smart enough to know that's not all what they're going to do. And what's really funny is Florida State's defense did the same thing as well. They didn't really show a whole lot. They didn't show a lot of the base stuff, right? And I just think that's going to be really key. And there's so many other little things, such as, let me ask you this, Blake. How do you feel about the offensive line alignment that Brian Kelly gave out today? I know you gave the good folks of the AYS message boards some good insight on that earlier, but I'm interested how you feel about, Wire being the right tackle.
I think, this is my opinion, I think they're putting Cam Wire there because they think, and this isn't a shot at Anthony Bradford at all. If Anthony Bradford knows what he needs to do and who he needs to go after, he's going to kill somebody.
Right.
That's how I feel. And I think you're putting experience out there. I think that he does have experience. But I will tell you this, though, Carter. Cam Wire looks trimmer. He looks leaner. He obviously did something for Brian Kelly to put him there because they were having severe success when he wasn't in the lineup. So why move him now, right? And so that does tell me that there had to be something. Now, if you remember, Carter, in 2020, when Cam Wire went in, we were what's the word I'm looking for? Speculating for him to be a starter, if you remember, because he was playing right tackle, and we're like, oh shit, kick Austin Deculus inside and keep him at right tackle. Well, Orgeron never did that. Okay, I think it's a good offensive line. They got some beef in the interior, and I think that Miles Frazier is the most athletic guard that we've seen at LSU since maybe Lael. And I know I say Lael's a guard, but you get what I'm saying. Like, number 7 to play inside and outside, he's that good. I think they got dogs up front. I've seen them stop this offensive or defensive line. I've seen them pick up blitzes and stunts. That's what I think. I'm okay with it. Because here's the truth. If all hell breaks loose, you're bringing in another 5th or 6-year senior in Tremont Shorts.
Right.
So I'm okay with it.
I am too. Like, look, Cam's had some games versus some really good defensive ends where it's gone well and not gone well. I do feel, though, him winning this job in practice is huge, right? And it's going to be a tough matchup, right, for this entire offensive line versus their front. But I like it. I really do. And for me, I look as well at, tight end, running back, how the play calls are actually going to happen. And one thing that I find to be very, very, very fascinating, okay? So you look at the grand scheme of the career of Mike Norvell and his defensive coordinator, right? Their biggest win was against Cincinnati, right? A few years ago. And that was in 2019 when Memphis was winning the conference championship, right? So what happened is in back-to-back weeks, they had to play Cincinnati. So the way it worked out was they played Cincinnati in Memphis.
In the regular season and lost, right?
Yes. Okay. Well, here's what happened. So they played Cincinnati in the regular season, and the winner of that got to have a conference championship game on their home field. Memphis won the first matchup, and Memphis won the second matchup. And in both matchups, Cincinnati scored 24 points, which was really good. Memphis had a really good defense. And the play caller was Mike Denbrock. What was really impressive about what Denbrock did in both of those weeks, and this is what really stood out to me. So you got to remember, Desmond Ridder was only a sophomore, and he really wasn't that good his true sophomore year, right? Well, Ridder had actually gotten hurt the week before, so they had to play the backup, Ben Bryant, okay? And he had success with both of them, a pocket quarterback and a dual threat quarterback in back-to-back weeks. They moved the football. The issue wasn't the offensive side of the football, right? And that stood out to me with Mike and his play calling. So, it may be an interesting nugget that doesn't mean anything, but I found that to be unbelievably fascinating that Denbrock has played this coaching staff. And Brian Kelly, of course, mentioned earlier today that, what's happened in the past may not be relevant. But I found that in 2 separate weeks with going up against a Memphis team that was just better than Cincinnati that year, that was pretty impressive that Mike was able to move the football with a backup and the starting quarterback in back-to-back weeks.
The biggest thing that I keep thinking about when I was watching the Florida State game was this. We keep talking about their edge and their contain. And I listened to Mike Norvell today, and he said the only thing that I didn't like defensively is that if somebody gets on the outside of us, we're in trouble. Well, the problem with that is that on these bootlegs, they want Jaden out in the outside of the pocket. I don't know, Carter. I'm going to call my shot. Zach Pooh Bear, remind me of this when it happens. First play of scrimmage from LSU, under center bootleg, Jaden runs for 10, first down.
I like it.
Because I think I could be wrong. I could be wrong. But I think that they do have an issue with guarding the perimeter. We saw if Duquesne could do it, we can do it.
Yeah.
I want to ask you this question though. 2 more, and it's both vice versa.
Yeah.
Their wide receiver core versus RDBs. I didn't see anything special. The only thing that I saw from Florida State was they're very big. Like one dude 6'7", one dude 6'3", one dude 6'4". Their shortest wide receiver that started 6'1". He was in the slot. Carter, what were your thoughts of your wide receivers? Because I agree with Mike Norvell. I thought that they played at a high level and got open very quickly. This past Saturday, I should say.
Yeah, this has been Florida State's biggest weakness, right? If you go look at, some of the advanced like passing statistics and all that, Jordan Travis is fine, right? The biggest problem is they just don't have dudes on the outside like LSU does. Now, they do bring in Wilson, the transfer from Arizona State, who had a really good game, got his ankle rolled up on, but made a really impressive deep catch, right? And they bring in Micah Pittman, who's a kind of a guy that never really got it figured out at Oregon, and he's got some real ability. But, the truth is this has been a major, major issue with Florida State. They just, when you think Florida State, you think of, some of their great wide receivers, obviously, Peter Warrick being the most famous of them, but still.
It's not Popeyes. tight end Kelvin Benjamin?
Kelvin Ben.
Dude, very quickly. I started
No,
interrupting.
it's
It's the best comment on Monday Night Football of all time when Booger McFarland said that man's a Popeyes biscuit away from being a tight end.
Yeah, people didn't get that reference, and it just kind of flashed in my mind. I totally got it. It was just so great.
Every time I hear, dude, can I tell you something? Every time I think about Florida State wide receivers, I think of Booger McFarland and the Popeyes biscuit. By the way, happy anniversary to Popeyes. This is not a paid advertisement. 2 years ago today, the chicken sandwich came out.
No.
Yeah. It was the infamous picture of the lady sitting on the bench, like stressed out.
You want to know what's funny? I just had a tweet about that, and on a live stream, and it was like the third hour of a live stream. I don't know why that photo didn't win a Pulitzer. Like, it's legit one of the best photos I've ever seen, right? The unedited one is better than like the edited one because it was just some person sitting in line in their car.
He was exhausted.
Yes. So what makes the unedited version, because the edited version is like zoomed in, what makes the unedited version so great and why it should win a Pulitzer is that the person who is taking the photo is the reason why the lady is crouched down, right? Because the drive-thrus at Popeyes everywhere were so backed up that you could just sit there for hours and take a Pulitzer Prize winning photo. So the person taking the photo was the system that, it gets into like a philosophical thing. That's what makes the unedited version. I think about that photo all the time. I want to know more about that lady. I want to know where she is now. She better be a millionaire, right?
I hope so. Very, very quickly on the Popeyes lady, and let's talk some more football.
Yeah.
My wife got it for the first time when it came out. And we go through the drive-through, and the poor lady on the announcing thing, or asking for the order, she goes, "Welcome to Popeyes. We out of them bitches." Sorry to God.
No, they did not say that right
bitches. I'll never forget that. It's so great. I'm like, I can't even be mad at this point. You know what I mean? We out of them bitches. And I should have known better because nobody was there. Carter, so getting back to their wide receivers and RDBs, do you think that LSU has the advantage?
Yes and no. I mean, it is a brand new secondary with a lot of new pieces, but this is, really quickly here, a good matchup for them to start out, right? You didn't want to start out going up against Cedric Tillman and Tennessee's wide receivers, right? You wanted to, start out going up with, a new-ish wide receiver core. I also see Tyson asking about the field goal kicker. Like, you're going to be asked about it all week. There's nothing it's either you make the kicker.
They told us he made a 54-yard field goal. It's very Les Miles just in a way that it kind of is like in the ether. Nobody knows.
Nobody. Honestly, you just got to, trust Coach Poling and making the right decision here with Ramos. It is painful to see Cade York knocking these 70-yarders in practice. Like, oh my goodness. And you had one last year of eligibility, but I'm cheering for Cade, obviously. But yeah, it's when you lose a special teamer of that quality, it's key. And then also the kickoff specialist, right? I had a long rant on here a few weeks ago about how great Avery Atkins was. Honestly, for special teams questions, you just got to hope for the best, right? And that's, basically where we are right now.
All right, I lied. Last one.
Yeah, go ahead.
And we'll get you out of here. Do you want to give a prediction score? Do you want to give a score prediction?
I have LSU winning. I do. As far as like a score prediction,
I
don't have one just yet. I'm still watching Florida State's defense, right? But I do think LSU finds a way to win this game. And it is very interesting, Blake. Like, the game being in New Orleans, is that an advantage? Is the week 0 or the week 1 thing going to be an advantage? I don't know. But the simple truth is this, and I'm releasing a podcast on this very topic later this week. So make sure you go subscribe. It's free. You're the one that told me to start this. It's just on iTunes, you can listen to it. It's shorter versions of the show. So a little bit later this week, this is what's really interesting.
Who would have known?
Here's what's really interesting. And you made this point. And I want people to just philosophically think about how difficult this schedule is going to be, right? So Florida State, by the AP polls logic and by the computers as well, this could be the easiest game on LSU's schedule. And you're only a 3-point favorite, right? The easiest game in terms of Power 5 competition, right? This is going to be tough. You better strap in no matter the result of the game, because there's going to be some rough patches at times this year. And let's just hope it doesn't come on Sunday, because a win would do wonders.
So let me ask you that. If LSU does roll out of the Superdome 41-28 winners or 38-24 winners, what do you think?
That they're really competitive, that they're a really good football team, and that Brian Kelly got this team ready to play, right? And part of me, Blake, one big thing that's going to be very interesting is the third quarter, right? I felt the adjustments, and I felt on a macro and micro level, once again, this is part of why, I'm getting deeper and deeper into this Florida State stuff. I felt as if Norvell didn't do a good enough job adjusting to what his team's strengths and weaknesses were, not only over the course of some games, but just over the course of the season. And, once again, you and I will not know as much about Florida State as some Florida State fans, but I've had a few FSU fans reach out to me for my breakout last night that were echoing that sentiment, right? And the truth is, even though this game is in New Orleans, Mike Norvell is under more pressure than Brian.
I agree, no doubt. We're not firing Brian Kelly after if we lose Saturday or Sunday.
This is a big one for Mike. This is a huge one for Mike. Florida State.
You know what it could remind me of? Auburn LSU a season ago. Two teams that just kind of feel like, man, we're battling for the position of, like a bad, because look, Brian Harsin, I mean, God bless him. He didn't even have, he was what, 4-1, 5-1 when we're playing LSU, whatever it was. It could be a dogfight. I could see that.
Yeah. And look, and this is very key, right? And I've already seen some people saying, well, what rough patches are you talking about as far as me is concerned?
Yeah, it's called Bama.
Well, outside of Bama, but not just Bama, right? There's just good teams, right? And we can't get, we're running out of time here. We can't get, there's a lot of good teams, and there's a lot of question marks surrounding LSU, right? Do you want me to come on here and say, hey, this is the 2019 roster and we're ready to run this, No. But look, this is very key to keep in mind, all right? There's a lot of variance, but at the very least, you have somebody that is better between the headsets, okay? Brian Kelly, during his career at Notre Dame, has been pretty sound between the headsets as far as making adjustments are concerned. So that is obviously very key, and as an LSU fan, you should feel pretty good about that on Sunday.
Carter, the Power, Bryant, Power Hour LSU. Y'all go subscribe to it on YouTube and the new audio podcast, wherever you get podcasts, correct?
Let's do it. Let's go, baby. Let's go. Huh?
All right.
Huh?
I'm glad they beat Dookie Kane, but we ain't Dookie Kane. That's all I'm going to say.
All
right, buddy. We'll talk to you next week, brother.
All right, Blake.
That is Carter, the Power, Bryant. Lars, I got to tell you something, buddy. LSU ain't winning 7-6. It ain't happening. That ain't happening, dog. All right, let's do this. Let's pay these bills. One last bill to be paid. Let's talk about our good friend Carol Foss over at State Farm. Pooh Bear with his bow tie. Can you see it or can you not? Now you see me. Now you can. And Zach will be joining us. Zach had the hype video. Go to his Twitter, Tigers Avenue on Twitter. Go check it out. Leave him a comment. Give him a follow. All that great stuff. So let's pay these bills. The producers are up next. Guys, you might know my good friend Carol Foss and all the great service that he provides over at State Farm. He is your good neighbor after all. But did you know State Farm has surprisingly great rates as well? Along with the great neighbor service, State Farm agent Carol Foss has surprisingly great rates for everyone inside the state of Louisiana. So call him today at 985-395-4300, 985-395-4300 for all of those surprisingly great rates on auto, home, and life insurance needs. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there, and individual premiums will vary by customer. All applicants subject to the State Farm underwriting requirements. Okay, so we have the producers that are in here joining us. Guys, it is game week. We're
back.
Look, you know it's bad when you're staying up extremely late watching Vanderbilt beat the doo-doo out of Hawaii.
Hey, man, so listen. So let's get into this Vandy thing. I know that a lot of people made fun of Clark Lee and made fun of him hiring a guy from 247. When you recruit 3-star guys that can actually play, you're going to win. Okay, their recruiting is not like people think that it is. Vanderbilt came out and clapped them cheeks in the second half. There's no other way to say.
Yeah.
Like Tony's roommate. Anyway, guys, what was y'all's thoughts on Florida State this week?
For me, I don't know if we mentioned it, but there was time, and look, they didn't gain a lot of yardage. I mean, it's what did you say, Dookie Stain? Like, they didn't gain a lot of yards, but there was times when I was watching that game where they gashed Florida State's line in the run game. I mean, there was times that there was just wide open holes, missed assignments, and I was like, okay, that was. I mean, you mentioned the DBs, but as great as the defensive line is, there was times in that game I wasn't as impressed.
I'll take care of that one. Okay. I think I told you, Blake. I wasn't impressed, and I know it's Duquesne, but Florida State didn't look as crisp, even though they were holding back. Saying visibly, they didn't look as crisp. DBs were getting beat off the ball. If Dookie Kane can make some catches, that's a different ball game. It may not. It's still going to be a blowout, but it's a different ball game. We had Ben from down south football last night. Avid Florida State fan, huge Florida State fan.
Avid drinker.
Yeah. But he mentioned some things. Daniel, a hater. What is wrong with your haircut?
You do need to show him the bow tie. You do need to show him the bow tie.
Yeah, it's my bow tie. It's my birthday bow tie. Y'all
you gotta do kind of pull one of these to go to
Daniel. If you could grow facial hair, you can understand
if
that.
Daniel could grow hair on his head.
Ooh.
I mean, here's Daniel's hairline. Look,
the walking billboard.
Yeah, but
right.
But seriously though, he talked about as far as like defensive backs, the guy who started or who's presumed to be the starter was out. He may be out this week. The wide receivers, they don't have a true wide receiver one. Honestly, when he was describing what their wide receiver room looks like, it sounded like the Saints last year to me. There are some guys in there who are filling in, making catches, but they aren't a wide receiver one.
Well, even Carter mentioned Wilson, who's quote unquote their number one. He rolled his ankle and went to the medical tent, and we don't know yet the severity of that injury.
He's a basketball player. Yeah, he's a basketball player.
At least that's what Mike Norvell said in his press conference today, and I believe him. I don't think you run him back out there if he rolls his ankle, not against Dookie Stain.
Yeah.
There's obviously I talked about one of them being our wide receivers versus their DBs.
Mm-hmm.
They did play 4 centers this past Saturday, which is a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
The problem, though, is, guys, for me, at the current moment, it's not that they have better athletes at all. That's not my worry. My worry is up here, right? Like my worry is about our mentality of what you're supposed to do if this tackle, blocks down, or if your guy's blocking down and you see a defensive or offensive lineman coming at you. Those are the things. It's not the physical part that worries me at all, because when you do some of the things that, and look, I said this in the spaces. My worst attribute when I started in this business was I would take one play and like go in on that one play. instead of kind of like Zach, when you were mentioning, there were times that they got gashed. Well, and I agree with you. There were times that they legitimately got gashed. My issue, though, was what happened the other 406 yards, right? Like what happened the other 17 rushing attempts that Dookie Stain had? Those are the things that I look for, not more as a holistic picture. But I will say this. That center thing's a big deal, okay? It's a very big deal. If we have it here, it's over.
Yeah.
If we stay – so, Pooh, I thought about this a lot yesterday, okay? Mm-hmm. When you went in spaces and you ripped me a new one, pause. My being able to think about it, this is what I was trying to convey.
Mm-hmm.
It's if you play sound football, guys, there is a potential we blow them out. Okay, like I can see that. If you don't, they gonna catch you. You know, it's kind of like the way that I thought about it last night was this. What was Conor McGregor so great at as a fighter? It wasn't the guy that goes in there and throws the first punch. It was when somebody threw a punch and made a mistake, he would light your ass up.
Correct. Counter.
They would counter. That's the point for me that I worry about the most. If you do have a situation where you become tired, because what if LSU's offense does run tempo and the defense gets a little winded? It might not even be the first unit that is making those mistakes. It could be a young man like Savion Jones. It can be, case in point, Harold Perkins, because he's never seen something like that before. I think that's the game plan. If you make, because Pooh, how do unathletic teams in high school beat very talented teams? Like how does the big private school beat the big bad athletic badass athletes at the public school?
It's all about scheme.
It's all about scheme. It's all about, can those athletes be disciplined? Because everywhere else, they can outrun you, they can out-tackle you, they can out-jump you. That is, to me, the biggest concern. And I hope that now, having time to think about it, it makes more sense. I ask both of you, y'all's reply and y'all's thoughts to that.
I think, so I put it like this. This whole offseason, everything we've talked about has been the professionalism, the discipline that is being instilled off the field. That has to translate on the field. I'm not so much worried about guys. That guys are going to make mistakes. It's week 1 for us. Yeah. They're going to make mistakes. I think the thing that that gives me the most confidence is Brian Kelly's ability to coach these guys through those mistakes or through a mistake that won't cost us the game. That's where I think it's different from any other staff we've had in the past.
And Pooh, I'm great with that. Zach, your response to that?
Well, since Pooh went positive, I'll go negative. You mentioned countering. If Florida State counters, the biggest thing that worries me, I know this has been mentioned a lot, but it worries me if it gets down to a special teams type game and we have to kick a field goal to win the game or kick a field goal to go up, by 1, you're down 2. I mean, that worries me. It really is a major concern. I think it may be the biggest concern of this entire football team because, like y'all said,
watch him be the best at the end of the season.
That'd be great. And I hope that's the case. But you mentioned the counter, and it's a good point because it's a possibility. It's a possibility.
Why could Florida not stop LSU last season? I'll give this as an example. Number 1, they were undisciplined. Mm-hmm. Okay. It's all about the penetration. So I don't mean this in the wrong way, and I don't think their offensive line is trash. Mm-hmm. The way that you do things to make a bad offensive line look good is, instead of me going head-to-head up against you, why don't I take a half of your body and try to push you out? Okay? My leverage running right at you when I'm hitting the side of your body is much more different of me doing a zone read when we're head-to-head. That is the difference in these counter plays and why it worked for LSU a season ago, why it worked for Florida State this week. My point that I'm just trying to make is I think that we'll be fine. My issue is if you don't, then that's where you start having issues. Because as Brian Kelly quoted today in his press conference, look, if we're not, and he said it, if we're not disciplined, basically this, because he said, we did this last season and we got into overtime at the place I was last year. What I think he was trying to say was, hey, man, you know why that game was so close? Because we thought we were Notre Dame and we could just waltz out there and kick their ass.
Bingo.
And so that, to me, when I hear LSU fans talk about that, I'm like, dude, Notre Dame was not a bad team last year. They were 11-1. So in a very disciplined Brian Kelly team. That's just all I'm trying to say. I'm just trying to give a counteractive part of where I think this game is ultimately going to come down to. I still think we win by 17. That's where I'm going to have it. I'm sitting around 38-17, 38-24 is where I'm going to have it. I think that, and I think Jaden Dan, look, and I'm going to tell you this too. Brian Kelly, and we're going to end it here. Brian Kelly has to make just as much of a statement as LSU does. I kind of feel like LSU and Notre Dame, LSU and Brian Kelly are on a similar path. Okay. The path of LSU is, bro, LSU sucks. You went 6-6 or 6-7. You went 5-5. You go and pay Brian Kelly, whatever. Brian Kelly, obviously, we heard from Brian Driscoll. He couldn't win the big game. Okay, so I think that they're somewhat on a similar path, is my opinion. So,
I don't disagree. I think the second half. You mentioned how big it is for BK. I mean, the second half's gonna be huge for him, and making adjustments, and because I think there's gonna be two factors in this where Florida State had week 0 and LSU. This is week 1 for them. Like, yes, Florida State had the experience, but I think that is going to be countered by LSU's motivation to come out and win the game. Honestly, I mean, I don't think that week 0 really played a major factor. And I mean, they had the extra game, yes, but I think it's going to be countered with LSU's excitement to be able to just get out there and play.
Nobody's talking about the dome either.
Yep.
Nobody's talking about the atmosphere. Guys, they didn't sell out their own stadium. They didn't have a third part of their stadium full. I mean, it was like halfway full. I get it was raining and it was lightning and stuff like that. That shit don't bother LSU people.
Yeah. Blake, something we talked about in I think in Spaces, and I think we may have mentioned it on the show last week. What Vegas thinks. The spread didn't change.
No.
Yeah. And listen, they're not in the business of losing money.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that means that they, in my opinion, it's two sides to that. They're still unsure about LSU because LSU still hadn't named a quarterback, and they didn't see anything in Florida State to say maybe they're better than we thought.
Yep.
Well, let me, Pooh. We're kind of out of time here, but we'll get the line. And I mean, when it didn't move at all, I'm talking about it didn't move at all. So let's see how it monitors throughout the week. Okay, guys, my name is Blake Ruffino. You have Pooh Bear. You have Zach. Again, go watch the hype video Zach posted on Twitter. Tigers Avenue podcast. Go retweet it. Don't be a Rudy Poo. Zach, has anybody retweeted it since we've been on the air?
Probably just a little bit.
Don't be a Rudy Poo. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Y'all have a good night. Peace out, Girl Scouts.